Throughout my life I have had 3 experiences with the entity that I have come to call the Shadow Man. He lurks in my nightmares and is always in the back of my mind when I am in the dark. My first experience was when I was 8. I have always been a poor sleeper and this night was no different. Around 2 in the morning I realized that I needed to go to the bathroom. I slipped out of my bed and tiptoed to the washroom, hoping not to wake anyone as I passed by their doors. When I reached the bathroom I was confronted by a tall figure shrouded by darkness. I was shocked but I could not seem to utter a single noise. I just stood there. The figure was clearly that of a man but no features were distinguishable. He reached out his hand and with a long, slender finger he began to beckon me towards him. I could not move. I tried to see if I could recognize a face. Maybe it was my father up for a late night whiz. The figure said nothing. It only beckoned. After some time I worked up the nerve to turn on the light. With the flip of a switch, the figure was gone. I remember fleeing to my parents' room, crying that I had seen a monster, only to be hushed and told that the dark was playing tricks on me. Maybe it was. 4 years later, we visited my great-uncle's farm. It was no longer a functional farm but my brother and I used to like to go and play in the old hayloft and search for the skeletons of long-dead cats. A morbid hobby maybe but it certainly seemed fun at the time. After a long day of playing in the hayloft we were getting ready to leave. It was late afternoon and my parents were eager to get home for supper. As we were leaving I looked back at the barn. In the highest window, at the top of the old building, I could make out the figure of a man. No discernible features, just the shadowy figure. I felt like he was looking directly at me. There was movement. He was beckoning. Fear slithered up my spine. I knew that for a person to be standing in front of that window there would need to be a surface for them to stand on. I knew the ins and outs of that barn and I knew there was no floor in front of that window. Whoever it was had to have been hovering there on thin air. I kept this to myself. I knew my parents would not believe me and I was not sure if I believed it myself. About 2 years ago I had my most recent experience with the Shadow Man. As I had mentioned before I am a poor sleeper. As I got older I started to develop sleep paralysis. I would feel like my body was finally starting to drift off, then some overwhelming terror would come over me and I would try to move or scream but was unable to do either. I was conscious but temporarily trapped in my own body. I would get these sensations from time to time. They would frighten me but I knew it was just my silly brain toying with me. Until that night. It was late. I was lying in bed, hoping to drift off soon. I could feel the sleep begin to creep up my limbs. My breathing was becoming regular and restful. My eyes were getting heavy. The numbness of sleep was finally starting to envelop me. As my eyes begin to flutter before retiring for the night, I see him, standing at the foot of my bed, staring at me. I cannot see his eyes but I know he is looking at me. I try to move, to shake myself into wakefulness but the sleep paralysis has taken over. I am aware of my surroundings but unable to do anything. He begins to crawl up my bed toward me. I can feel the pressure but I cannot move. I try to scream. I try to escape. But I am frozen. His face is soon inches from mine. I stare into nothingness. The outline of a face is there but no features. I cannot get away. My heart is racing. I feel sick to my stomach. I urge myself to get out of my paralytic state. I shoot up from my bed and he is gone. I look around my room. I must have been dreaming. That could not have been real. I settle myself back down. My tired mind must have been playing tricks on me. I lay down in my bed. I was okay. I felt the odd sensation that someone was in my room but I chalked it up to the nightmarish experience. I started to feel sleep take over my body again. Just as my body is ready to submit to my overwhelming exhaustion I hear it. The rocking chair in the corner of my room. Rocking back and forth, back and forth. He's back. Lately I have been staying up until about 3 o'clock to 4 a.m. in the morning reading stories until my eyes can no longer hold themselves up. I have also been reading about Slender Man and learning more and more about him. Yes, I know, not a good idea. Anyway, after discovering what Slender Man was, I have been really paranoid. I feel like I'm always watched everywhere I go. Just 2 nights ago, around 2:45 a.m. I was laying down on the couch watching TV and texting my friend when I heard the gate to my backyard open. Note, we are having a remodel going on in the front part of our house, so we can't use the front door. We have to go through the side gate. After you enter through the side gate, you walk about 25 feet and to your left is a patio and a pool. A sliding glass door leads from the living room to the patio. Next to the living room is the kitchen. Anyway, after the gate opened, I heard footsteps. It sounded like the person was dragging their feet. The blinds to the glass door were closed and I was getting really paranoid. I told my friend that someone was in front of my house and he jokingly responded with, "It's Slender Man. He's going to get you." After reading that, I got even more scared. I turned the TV louder and I tried to ignore whatever was out there, hoping it was just a dog or something. About 2 minutes later, I heard something heavy get thrown into the pool. After that, I couldn't take it anymore and went to bed wanting to forget what had just happened. Now I'm home alone. It's 10:30 at night and my mom won't be back until around 3 a.m. I'm hearing lots of noises and activity going on outside. I've also noticed earlier today that a few things were missing from our yard. The noises keep getting louder and I am really scared now. I'm sitting in my room tucked in a corner with my blinds closed and my door locked. I keep getting the feeling of something watching me and I'm getting very scared. All the doors and windows are locked in my house and all the blinds are closed. The noises from outside are still going on and I'm not sure what to do. My roommates and I often write or draw things on our bathroom mirror and dry erase marker. I went in to take a shower and wrote, "Slender Man is watching you." I stepped into the shower and when I got out I was slightly creeped out. Every word looked like it had veins coming out of it and the word "you" was completely warped as if someone wrote it with a shaky hand. It was no longer my handwriting. At the time my roommate was home, but I know he didn't come in and write it because the door was locked. I left the house for work and when I came back later that day the words were changed again. The word "watching" was written in a really weird way where you could barely read it. I asked my roommate and my boyfriend and they both denied doing it. I know if they had done it they would have made it clear they were trying to scare me. I don't know how it happened and to this day that mirror now creeps me out. Years ago, before I had even heard of Slender Man or read it, there was a story of him around my old neighborhood. We did not actually call him Slender Man, but some kids had reported seeing a tall, older man in a suit walking around the graveyard. There was a specific story that sticks out to me told by a girl that was in college at the time. She was my friend's older sister and she was telling me about how she was skateboarding home one night and she had to pass the cemetery, which was the block over from hers. She kept seeing tall, lingering shadows following her, but she thought nothing of it till she got home and saw a tall, older man wearing a black suit standing in her backyard. She ran inside and looked out the window to see him standing across the street under the trees. She said he didn't leave all night and that she would see him every now and then in the same spot. There were so many other stories almost identical to hers around my neighborhood. I never actually saw anything and I'm pretty glad that I didn't. I'd be worried that he was outside of my window right now, but I live across the country from my old home. I wonder if there are still stories of him there. The private kindergarten school that I had gone to as a child was shut down a few years ago. No one knows why. I decided to head back to see what was left as a little adventure. Me and friend went to check it out at night. I'm afraid of the dark, so I refused to go in. Instead we checked the back of the building and we saw her. A little girl in all black with a blonde ponytail just sitting there looking at the sky. We shrugged it off as just a kid that snuck out. It was 1 a.m. The next day we went when it was still light. We broke in through a window and when we entered I was shocked. Everything had been left. The couches in the teacher's room, the desks, the pianos, and even paperwork on the children and old checks. I went into the bathroom and saw a huge bottle of open pills and I'm still not sure what they are. There's pictures of babies with matches around them. When we went downstairs there was a painting of Slender Man that covered the wall. The kitchen was still the same and even some of the food was left over. There was a knife and handcuffs, though, which was kind of sketchy. We found pictures of the kids that went there and notes saying I don't want to leave, I'm so sorry, I need these children and things like that.